Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, today's video is going to be fleeting. Now, I'm not going to be talking about just any type of fleet. I'm talking about an in-game class fleet, the Battleship fleeting options. Now, when I discuss this, I'm actually going to discuss it in a three-piece format. I'm going to discuss it as first a two-man PvE fleet. Then I am going to go to a two-man PvP fleet for your effective damage dealing and handling with enemies. And then last of all, with this entire set, I am going to talk about a massive dealing with a complete fleet of battleships. So let's talk about pairing them up. Now, one ship will form the centerpiece to just about any formation of battleships that is starting now all the way till the end of the game. That's because with this one ship put into your formation, you make your ships unbelievably tanky. Yes, I'm talking about the Nightmare. The Nightmare being the centerpiece to the most DPS you could ever do. Now, why do I say the Nightmare is the centerpiece? Well, number one, the Nightmare has the ability to extend your HP. Now, extending your HP may not seem like it's such a big thing, but with the Nightmare's ability to increase your HP by hundreds of millions, the Nightmare's sorry, with the Nightmare's ability to increase your HP by 100 million or hundreds of millions, depending on what type of rigs you are running on your ship, it makes it really, really good to actually deploy in your formation. So the Nightmare, just like any other shield field module ship, allows you to extend the reach of your ships in terms of taking in damage. It makes you more tanky, it makes you a better formation player. So running the Nightmare with a Rattlesnake will be one of the best DPS and effective HP builds, because you basically will have the ability to fight just about all the enemies in an encounter, with you having strong long range combat and a stronger format of play from the Rattlesnake, where you can take on close range combat. You don't have to burn out to all your enemies, you can actually hit them from a safe distance, considering that the Rattlesnake will have a slightly larger range than most of the ships. Now, I know that this is just the basic to all of it, so let's get a little bit further into the whole expansion of how you will pair them. The next option on any type of formation would be the Nightmare with one of the other short range combat ships. Now, the reason why the Nightmare doesn't really pair well with the Macarial is it's two double long range ships, and any ship that gets within the close range of your vessels is going to be a problem for you to hit. You'd have to keep both of your battleships at a range of around 15 k's from each other, so you'd have a massive range between you, and you'd have to use a medium shield field or a large shield field to actually keep the field going. Now, if you are running a Macarial and Nightmare mix, you have to keep that distance. Now, why do I say 15 k's? Because between that small distance in between, ships can actually roam between your sweet spot between the two of you, but they also have to drop out of that sweet spot to still be able to do damage to one of you. So while they're trying to circulate and move between you, you have the chance to actually hit them. So if they stay at 7.5 without moving, you're going to destroy them instantly. If they jump between you at 7.5 and 10, you're going to be able to, one of you is going to be able to do damage to the other ship. It also means that the fight will be prolonged, and they can always try to slow down one of the two ships to pull you out of the bubble. So that is why you don't really want to pair yourself up Macarial Nightmare at the moment. Later on, when you have more skills, it's going to be a lot easier to run the Macarial with higher tracking systems on it for the basic. You have drones to help you out with close range combat against frigates or anything that is really, really fast in the close range combat scenario. So really think about that for when you are pushing to the next level. Okay, now pairing up a Nightmare and Balgon or Vindicator, I'm actually counting the two in the exact same class because they're heavy PvP debuff type vessels. When you pair them up against PvE encounters, remember this is purely a very brawler type setup. You're going to have to burn out a lot with your thrusters. You're going to have to try and close the distance between most enemies. So any enemy that is really fast is going to be a problem for you. The Nightmare is capable of going really fast without a heavy drain to its power grid. The Balgon is capable of draining energy effectively. So it's also in a similar class to the Nightmare when it comes to using micro warp drives. However, the Vindicator isn't in the same class. If you're going to pull the long range combat, the Vindicator is going to drag behind in a bubble. It's going to slow down your progress. So the Vindicator can't really be used for that heavy, full out, non stop combat. The Balgon was just going to latch onto something, drain as much power as it possibly can, deal as much damage as it can, and once the ship goes boom, you actually have your win, and the Balgon can now push to the next ship. You're using that energy drain to basically give you a quick boost to the next ship and the next ship and the next ship. It's basically the vampire. Drain all of the capacitor and use it against that ship. No capacitor, no shield tank. Bye bye. Then moving on, the next range of combat that you have to think about is PvP. Now, when you are thinking of PvP, the whole thing for you in PvP is you need to be running debuffs. So your mid slot starts swapping up, you start running web of fires, you start running things like that there. Because most ships are going to try and close the 5 range gap on your battleship. And with double webs, you can really do a tremendous amount of damage to them. Plus, you can use the effectiveness of your heavy drones to actually break through them. So using a nice strong pair of drones, like a sentry drone in this case, with the effective web of fire plus your weapon systems, you could really do a good amount of DPS to someone who has tried to actually close that damage range. So within that 5k radius, you hit them with the web of fires, you try to pull away slowly, and you keep doing DPS to them till you beat them. Now, nonetheless, in any one of these formations, the Nightmare will form your backbone. It's going to give you the most amount of effective HP, and that's what you want to have on any of your battleships. Now, when pairing up for PvP, you would prefer to actually run a 3-man fleet over a 2-man fleet, but let's say for argument's sake, you're going to go 2-man. The only ship you don't want to run in PvP is the Macarial. Now, why don't you want to run the Macarial in your fleet when you're 2-man PvPing? Because the Macarial has long range combat, and too many pilots jumping into your bubble and keeping too close to you will mean you don't have that ability to effectively take care of them. It's way too risky for the high value of the vessel. So Nightmare Macarial is doable for PvE, it's not so doable for PvP, because in PvP you could get a large fleet of faction frigates, which is going to do a massive amount of DPS, pull away your shields, and still get to deal massive death blows to your big ship. So there is one place where you don't want to risk losing your advantage. Okay, now when you pair it up with Balgon and Vindicator, it's straight up brawler setups. The Vindicator is capable of annihilating anything on the close range. The Balgon is also capable of doing the exact same thing. The Nightmare is there to provide you with enough support, and it is capable of running stable with its afterburner. So there you go, 3-way bonuses on those 3 ships. The Rattlesnake is one of the most versatile. It is capable of doing long range and short range combat due to its effective bonus to its drones. So the drones form up like a drone fleet on any one of the other drone ships. It has heavy HP, so it's a ridiculously tanky drone. You don't have numbers like other fleets, but you do have DPS like no other fleet has on a single drone. One shot is going to be good enough to make a person worried about their frigates. The frigates get taken out, you have your shield, you pull your ships back in to get them recharged, and you go on with the next set of combat. And that's how you're going to keep going. You kill things on the close range, you recharge your drones, send them out on the long range, take out all the big vessels that are within range that you are capable of destroying. And once everything is out, everything is pulled away from you, you don't have to worry about it. You have the advantage, game over. Nightmare does long range damage with its weapons. You do long range weapons with long range damage with your missiles. Game over, enemy loses. You win. Okay, now the last formation that I was talking about was a complete fleet of battleships. Now, for a complete fleet of battleships, you want to run two of each ship. Now, why do you want to run two? Well, it's good to always have a backup for your nightmare. Remember, it has that shield field, and if one of them is running a shield field, the other could be running something like a group shield repair. So, shield repair, shield field, and they swap between each other when it comes to it. One has the shield field up, the other has the shield repair. It makes your effective HP ridiculously high. It makes your ships almost invulnerable within the field, and anybody who's hitting you is doing minimal damage while you aren't really even effectively draining your cap. So you can keep moving forward in a large formation. You can do massive DPS. Remember, you have to change your foots based on your fleets. The next thing to note about it is your effective DPS in that scenario where you are running the double nightmares means you are going to just go total HP on any one, not HP, total DPS on any one of these battleships. It's going to range in the ridiculous figures if you have paired them up correctly with the right fittings, the right setups. So you're going to be looking at rigging them up totally for combat. So you can look anywhere between 1500 DPS to 2500 DPS per, and that's DPS per the vessel. That's going to make a massive impact from each of these. With that DPS applied to any other ship, when you count it times 10, that is about 25,000 DPS, and it's going to be capable of destroying the frigates. It's going to be capable of destroying the battleships. It will literally obliterate any combat. The formation doesn't change regardless of PvP or PvE. 10 battleships without training to your skills would be able to actually take out a gate camp of about 40 to 50 cruisers. If the gate camps are stronger with battle cruisers or battleships as well, then the dynamic changes in the fight and you do run a risk of losing your ships. You have your two brawlers, your Balgon and your Vindicator, who will keep a range from your nightmares, and they will effectively pull ships down with debuffs and smash them to smithereens. You can effectively hurt the logistics and the shield field ships. So pull out the logistics from being able to repair within the field, pull out the shield field ship from being able to repair itself, and do maximum DPS to those two, effectively ending the fleet's capability of staying in combat. Regardless of what anybody thinks, that type of a formation from a battleship will definitely do damage. Just running 10 of them through most gate camps will definitely give you the win. Now, the reason for that whole formation is your Macarial and your Nightmare will keep the long range combat going from the back. Your Rattlesnake will be able to effectively help with close range and long range combat, making it the all round player in the fight. Your Nightmare is effectively keeping you all anchored and strong as a single unit. You use uh, your slowest ship as your anchor for speed, so the rattlesnake will be your anchor for speed. So if it progresses towards a ship with its slower speed compared to the others, you know that that's where you're going to cut off. If it doesn't progress fast enough towards other enemies, you can always run a risky play of throwing a Balgon out to pull one ship out while everything else catches up to that vessel. So the Balgon will jump to pull one of the ships out of the fleet that's in front, while everything else will just follow after the Balgon. That's basically the rattlesnake will push towards the Balgon. You'll catch up to it and you'll actually do the massive DPS as you engulf it into your field once more. You'll heal up the Balgons once more and you'll keep progressing with that same format. Damage dealing, healing, damage dealing, healing. So two-piece formation on doing a good DPS set, and there you go. That is one of the best formations. The Vindicator is also a close range brawler, but considering that its skills come from command bonus and not from electronic warfare, it is going to take a long time to actually pull the ship up to its maximum capability. So, considering that, in all fairness, right now in the fleet, the Vindicator won't play the biggest PvP role. It will do a lot of DPS, that is definitely something that it can do, but it won't play the role of debuffing right now. Debuffing will be held by the Balgon, while the Vindicator will be the secondary combat on the close range. So, the two brawler pilots right in front will be Balgons and Vindicators. That's actually four of your 10 ship fleet. The next two were basically supporting you. That's the Nightmare and the Nightmare once more. Swapping between the two of them in shield field. Wait one moment. I just want to double check something. I think I might be making a mistake. I actually own these rigs. I just don't remember checking up group shield booster. Let's see what the large does. I own a few of them. I haven't used them. So let's read the bottom. Yeah, this can be equipped to a battleship. As you can see, I have started a little bit of the operation. That's because I was getting ready to run a shield field module. If I'm correct, shield field modules also use the same. Let's check. No, they don't use any skills. So I didn't really need to learn anything. So yes, when it comes to this type of operation, remember that using your fields correctly does make a difference. I just want to double check something while I am here, since I do know that cruisers are the only ones with logistics. Oh no, they just have the operation bonus for the shield field. So yes, you could run a large shield field uh, with your fleet. You could use it against combat, and this is definitely going to help you out in most of your situations. Whew, sorry about that. I'm a little bit winded with this entire discussion. So when it comes to running those battleships, the one other thing to note about them is when you run them in those formations of 10, dead spaces and high end activities shouldn't be very difficult. If it is difficult, then you haven't paired up your fittings correctly on your vessels. Your damage dealers aren't doing enough damage, your effective HP healing isn't doing it right, or you're running the wrong type of lead on your fleet. Maybe your rattlesnake is a bit too fast for your fleet. Make sure that you check up with everybody on who has the slowest maximum speed. So whoever has the slowest maximum speed will dictate where your fleet speed ends. So they will always have the ability to move towards the next. You're going to use them as anchor. It's always the fastest way to do it. If you're running in a fleet with cruisers and battle cruisers, you anchor onto a battle cruiser to have the most effective speed. It's the same if you're running a fleet of industry pilots with a combat nearest combat. The nearest combat is the slowest ship. Everything will lock onto it and you will move forward with that ship instead of trying to lock onto a Moa Guardian and pull the fleet. It's not going to be as effective as this formation. Now, I know that everything I have explained is very basic, and it is something that you have to think about when you are moving forward. Now, even though I have explained this very broad spectrum, you have to remember that each situation has its own field of application. Remember, pairing up the Nightmare and the Rattlesnake may be the most effective pair for 80% of the situations, but it isn't 100% the best pair. You could end up going up against a battleship team as well, in which case the rattlesnake is a massive detriment. It isn't as effective on big ships as it is on small ships. And there you go, you lose your advantage. It's no longer effective because you're taking on a battleship team. You would have been better off with a Balgon or a Vindicator, or a Balgon and a Macarial. At that point, the Macarial does have the advantage. You could run the 2x2, keeping a nice range between you. The high DPS from the Macarial plus the resistance from the Nightmare will do a massive amount of DPS. Or you could run a double Balgon fleet where you can take out Nightmares and anything else in its field. You just basically drain the caps on them. So if you don't have your own Balgon, it will be Nightmare Macarial, Nightmare Rattlesnake against double Balgons. The Balgons can knock out all of your power and do massive DPS. So whether you have a shield field up or not, it doesn't really make a difference. You're eventually going to lose the fight. So those are the options when it comes to your basic fleet formations. Remember, you have to take in the scenarios. You have to try and think out the entire combat situation. You have to have an image in your head that's going to give you a good situation to play. Now remember, you can't obviously go and think, you know what, I'm going to pair up the rattlesnake and the nightmare. I'm not going to do any research ever in my battleship, and it's always going to be a fantastic win. No, it's actually going to be quite a risky win quite a lot of the time. Because even though your nightmare can tank quite a lot of damage and you still do a tremendous amount of DPS, you aren't as effective as you should be. You miss a lot, you aren't going to do the maximum DPS, and you're also going to be not as effective as maybe a battle cruiser paired with that nightmare. Or you might not be as effective as a team of battle cruisers. That is the whole thing. You need to be able to think about where you're going. You need to use logic to dictate how you're going to go forward. You need to be able to think about what's needed at which point for your ship. Like for your battleship, right in the start, command, engineering, and defense are absolutely critical. Once you have a 25% boost to your effective HP, one moment. I think I'm getting that figure wrong. Let me just open up the ship. This here adds 2000 to each. Yes, it'll take them all over 100. Yeah, 25% from advanced. And expert should give me 12.5. Yeah. So with that type of a bonus to your overall defense, and you adding things like shield field modules, damage control units, the effective HP on these ships goes over the top. But you're not going to be thinking of going there first. You're actually going to go to command. Sorry, I'm just going to open command here. Yeah. You're going to want to go command first. Now, why do you want to go command first? Well, it increases your velocity. That makes you a little bit more effective. But there is one more reason behind running command. Now, the reason for command is you actually want advanced command for bonuses on your ship. Now, it doesn't give you that massive bonus in terms of speed. It's only a 10% boost, and a 10% to 100 meters per second becomes 110 meters per second, and 110 is 121. Those small boosts do make a difference, even though I'm omitting the first level of advance with 25% to it. It makes it a 35% increase to speed, and as you complete your advantage, you get the speed advantage back with your big ships. But the problem is, this research takes a tremendous amount of time. It is extremely heavy research. And if you do have battleships, let's say for example, you get your first battleship being your nightmare, you manage to make another 20, 30 billion and you buy another two battleships, then you respec directly in command first thing. You get your advanced command in so that you have your bonuses on all your ships. Then you get your basic engineering up to maximum so that your ships are really, really strong. You don't have to sacrifice rigs for stability for your power grids. You don't have to sacrifice any of your fittings for non-optimal builds. You can then keep going with everything in that format. You can then respec straight out of your medium weapon into your large weapon, giving you another effective bonus. You could keep going in that format depending on which ship you're going to play in the fleet. And remember, forming nice strong teams of between 10 to 30 players is a very good way to play. If you have a 30 player team that you're always going to play with, you have 30 players who go around reacting together, you can effectively do a dead space in 10 minutes. That means all 30 of you jump into a dead space, you'll wipe it out, you'll jump into 3 sectors, you'll farm up the sectors one after the other. Scout spawns, in Inquisitor spawns, you can one man it. But when something big like a dead space spawns, all of you jump together into one sector, jump into the dead space, clean up the dead space, jump out, you'll split the loot. It actually makes that progress a little bit faster. And because it's battleships that we're talking about, your teams are actually going to take on T9, T10. If you're doing anything lower than T9, you're wasting the potential of your battleship. Your battleship is a T10 ranked battleship because it is faction. So with a little bit of command, a little bit of bonus, with that nice big team of battleships, there you go. You're the winner. You're always going to be the winner. You're going to take on heavy combat. You're going to take on heavy risks. If you have enough to build up two or three of your ships, then take it out for PvP. You have a gate camp forming up, make sure your Nightmare is your front player, make sure your Balgon is there or your Vindicator is there, jump into combat and boom. uh, Regardless of what they're using for the camp, if they're using anything less than a battleship, they're going to face this massive DPS coming out at them. They're going to face these massive drains from Balgons and Vindicators DPS. You're going to obliterate teams. Whether they're running Guardians or not, it's going to do so much of DPS that they don't have an option but to fall back. And that is what you want to do. You want to form up these nice, big, expensive teams. And once you're at that level, remember using them for big formations, big fights, not the best idea. Using them to break these small camps, open up parts, fantastic. You have someone camping you out with 40 players along a route. Yeah, you know what? 40 players is still doable with the if they all in cruisers and you just have your battleships, it's doable. Provided you're using your Nightmare for your DPS bonus, there you go. You can take out the entire fleet. They won't know what hit them. If you're going up against smaller ships like frigates and destroyers, you can take hundreds of ships on instead of just uh, tens. So instead of being able to take on 40 at maximum, you can take on an entire sector filled with these ships. If you want to go and cause some trouble for another sector, you know they only have 100 players active in that sector, jump in with the Nightmare Macarial, jump in front of their station, and just obliterate everything. That's one of the ways to go. You just have someone with the interdiction sphere dropping it every time in the path, and you just smash everything over there. The interdiction sphere is obviously from a lower level fleet. Interdiction sphere and a more guardian or a smaller guardian to help it, and you just use your two-man fleet with the long range and you just smash everything out. Quick, easy, good combat. If you think that that wouldn't work, then yeah, it wouldn't work. If you want to keep going with better formations on those combat, you can always keep a Balgon with the Nightmare, rip up an entire sector, destroy all of their mining operations. You can really hurt the sector. Go through an area, say for example you're in war, you manage to push the enemy out of a lot of their ratting area, jump into each base, kill all the bases with your battleship team. It'll take them a couple of minutes, maybe about an hour, to take out an entire 30 or 40 bases. Everything in that area is now low level bases. Their ability to take in ISK is now at the lower level. They have to count on selling their ores, go and mess up their mining operation. Mining operation has been messed up. They have to rebuild. They have a heavy expense. They don't have a heavy income for a week or two. Attack them again at the end of the week. There you go. You've ruined the entire formation. Their bases that raised up to 7 are now going back down to 0. They're not capable of making hundreds of millions every few hours. They're now only capable of making a few million an hour. Maybe 30, maybe 40 million is their maximum, because they're not getting dead spaces enough. The dead space spawn is very low. They're only having inquisitors and scouts. That's 10, 20 million at the maximum from the rewards on low level scouts and inquisitors. See, quick formations, quick fleets can do these. Now, I know that a lot of players do this here when it comes to fighting in wars. You jump into the territory, you kill all their bases, you make sure that all of their bases reset to low level. They might have one chance at farming up 20, 30 million worth of ISK from the available anomalies, but once they are gone, they don't have that massive ability to push for the bigger ones. They don't have the ability to make a billion a night. They don't have that ability to make 10, 20 billion a night. So there you go. You've really hurt them. They don't have that ability to keep expanding. Their corporation has to take on that massive fund. You could actually push them out of their stations eventually by forcing them to reduce the amount of money they have till the point where they have no option but to leave the area. Tactics like this are dirty, but they do work. And I do have another video which I'm trying to piece together. Unfortunately, I had a technical error with my recording. I don't know what happened. If I show you the video, you're gonna wonder what in the world is wrong with it. Why does my game keep kicking me out? So I'm not gonna show you the ratting that we did against one of the enemies for Genesis Federation last night. Now, I know that this has been a little bit of a long video and that it has talked about fleets and their formations and their usages in terms of PvP more than anything else. And I have described them doing PvE for the PvP benefit. And that is because taking out those bases is one of the easiest ways to reduce the income of any one corp. Even a big corp will really suffer if you took out their bases, because the moment those bases are reduced, the only thing they can do is farm. So they'd have to have heavy farming, not farm, mining. They'd have to have heavy armed mining teams with heavy defenses on them. So completely mining up heavy belts, looking for condensed ore all week, trying to rebuild and get everybody ratting in those areas, trying to push up the levels of the bases through the week. Okay, now that is going to be about it for this video. I hope that you have enjoyed my little rant on what you could do with Battleship team. And look down in the description below. There's the link to the PvE Defense Force if you are one of those players who wants to join them. They open to have new players. I am helping them out. I'm not part of the alliance myself. I do help them with giving them basic formation. I do help them with some allies. But the thing is that we haven't done any operations. The main force hasn't grown enough. So if you do want to join, there is an option. The next thing below that is there's the link to my Teespring and Patreon. If you do want to support this channel, there is a way that you can support me. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.